People eat at Subway restaurants around the world every day, but few of them know that the very first restaurant was opened right here in Bridgeport, Connecticut in 1965 by a 17-year-old with a $1,000 loan from a family friend.
And the kids were having a picnic in the backyard, and we had invited our friends Sal and Carmela DeLuca and young Fred DeLuca too. Fred came to me and said, "Hey Pete, what can I do so I can get some money so I can go to college?"
And he said, "You should open a submarine sandwich shop."
For Fred, whose limited job experience was having a paper route as a kid and working at the local hardware store, the suggestion came as a surprise. But what he lacked in business savvy, he made up for in enthusiasm.
I found a little store, what I would now classify as about the crappiest location in the world, but I didn't know.
As Fred and Pete prepared to open the doors to their first location, named Pete's Super Submarines, they carved a phrase into the door: think big. And by the end of that first day, they knew they were on their way to something big.
We opened the door for the first store, which we call Pete's Super Submarine Sandwiches.
So we show up bright and early, and we cut some materials. Not too much, because I really didn't think much about how much you actually needed. About 9:35 in the morning, a little girl from the neighborhood rides her bicycle up. Comes in, orders a sandwich. It's our first sale. 10 minutes later, I had to run down to the university and take an English exam. Come back, it's about noontime then, and my God, there's a line out the door.
On that first day, we sold all 312 breads that we had, and we sat down on the sidewalk and said, "Hey, we're rich," but we weren't.
And we were just basically staying afloat, watching our pennies very carefully, really learning through the school of hard knocks.
But after 6 months in business, the store was losing money and remained in the red. Though friends and family remained supportive, they begged Fred and Pete to abandon their venture. They considered it, but instead made a bold decision to open a second location.
We had 4 vendors. Every Friday, my mom and I would drive around and we'd visit all 4 vendors. And this routine, which was really unsophisticated, probably took us maybe an hour and a half on Friday, but it was really great. And I think the reason why it was great is that the vendors kind of liked us. They always saw us. We always brought them money. We were always honest about how the business was, good or bad. And as a result, they extended credit to us.
Those vendors not only played a key role in the opening of Pete's Subs, but also allowed the business to expand to 4 more locations. Meanwhile, the company's first employee, Dick Pilchin, was busy developing local marketing strategies.
Remember, we were always thinking we want to get bigger. And I said to Fred, well, we need a new name, and he agreed with me. So we kind of collaborated and we came up with the name Subway. So I said, well, that's good because I can make the sub one color and make the way another color. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, we could call it Subway, and then, it goes uptown and it goes downtown.
And so, the Subway name was born, and Store 5 would be a turning point for the young company.
Store number 5 was significantly better than the first 4. It started out with a volume that was almost 3 times the volume of any of the other stores. It was clearly a moneymaker from day one. That gave us a lot of stability.
Fred soon learned the basics of running a business, as well as the importance of serving well-made, high-quality products, providing excellent customer service, keeping operating costs low, and finding great locations. By 1973, they had opened 16 locations, but were only halfway to their goal of 32. With little money to expand, they needed to make a big decision.
And we decided to franchise, mainly because of 2 things. We weren't growing fast enough and we found that we opened stores further away. They didn't perform as well. It was tough for us to manage it. Because we didn't have any franchising experience. Nobody inside knew what to do. I never thought of hiring a consultant, didn't get any outside expertise, and just began inventing the franchise as best we could.
Fred approached his friend Brian Dixon with the idea of franchising and asked Brian to become the first Subway franchisee. But Brian declined because he had a job and got a paycheck every week. The day Brian changed his mind was the day Subway changed as well. Fred rented office space and began advertising the availability of franchise locations in the area. The response to franchising was immediate and steady. By early 1975, the company expanded into New York and Massachusetts. In 1977, when Fred got an inquiry from brothers Jim and Jerry Smith of Baltimore to open restaurants there, he created the development agent system. With franchising underway, the store count grew. By 1982, there were more than 300 locations in 30 states. Along with expansion came some new menu items, including the chain's flagship sandwich, the classic BMT, named for the Brooklyn Manhattan Transit System, and the smaller Snack Sub, what's today known as the 6-inch. But it was the introduction of freshly baked bread in 1983 that set Subway apart from its competitors. Subway opened its first international location in 1984 in the small country of Bahrain. Prospective franchisees in other countries soon heard of this new chain, kickstarting international expansion. The 1990s welcomed the introduction of the Kids Pack and non-traditional development in locations like gas stations, convenience stores, and truck stops. Subway was featured in major movies, and the chain began its motorsports sponsorship with an Indy car. In 1996, the Independent Purchasing Cooperative, or IPC, was created, which led to substantial buying power and savings for franchisees in both products and services. In 2002, Subway reached a major milestone, 13,247 locations, which surpassed McDonald's in the number of restaurants in the U.S. Toasted subs were introduced in 2005, and in 2007, the chain's first eco-friendly restaurant opened, which included greener operations and launched Subway's Eat Fresh, Live Green initiative. The first decade of the new century ended with Chief Development Officer Don Furtman going undercover on the hit TV show Undercover Boss. Behind all of this success is a team of thousands: franchisees, field staff, development agents, vendors, headquarters teams, and partners. Franchisees all over the world are working toward a common goal: provide customers with an exceptional experience and a delicious, affordable meal each and every time they visit. And they're also active members of the communities they serve, whether they operate in large cities or small towns, in the U.S. or countries around the world. Subway field members and offices find ways to give back. They sponsor Little League teams and charity events. They feed high school sports teams and participate in 5Ks and fun runs, all to support organizations in need around the world. Giving back is the right thing to do. Team Subway does it well and does it often. But being a good corporate citizen extends beyond this. It involves looking for improvements in every aspect of the business, including sustainable practices. Franchisees are taking an active role in conserving resources by adding solar tubes to conserve energy, using low-flow faucets, and light timers in restrooms. Some have even taken the initiative to become LEED certified eco-stores. Transport trucks are saving millions of gallons of gas due to more compact, efficient packaging. Using more recycled paper products and less plastic has spared thousands of trees and keeps more material out of the waste stream each year. Simply put, the future looks bright for Subway. Regional offices around the world are supporting international expansion, providing opportunities to a new generation of entrepreneurs. From its humble beginnings as the mom and pop known as Pete's Super Submarines, the Subway brand has made an indelible mark on the restaurant industry. But one thing hasn't changed. It's still a family business, owned and operated by thousands of families of individual franchisees in countries around the world.
It's hard to believe that 50 years has passed. It's exciting to see a brand get so big and it's so popular and so well recognized and such a strong brand. It is really amazing.
And now, 50 years later, it's time to celebrate Team Subway. Be proud of all your hard work. And here's to the next 50 years.